So I guess finally, I would just like to hear your thoughts on this whole issue and how leadership plays into it. Because I'm sure there's things that I haven't thought about that you have an insight into or that you've reflected on from the discussions that we've had.
Well, for example, it's really critical to engage people from the finance ministries because they're going to be interested, you're interested in better care for the patients. That's what your goal is. They're interested in saving money, right? There are real prospects of financial savings if your vision is implemented. You can't ask them to care about patients. You can ask them to care about money. So I would think involving the finance people is a really important step. Similarly with patient advocacy organizations, similarly with elderly organizations. I would also think that younger health professionals who have been trained differently than people in their 50s and 60s are going to be more open, although they have the less direct contact. Now, it is also my assumption that any health professional, most health professionals in their 20s and 30s and early 40s have elderly parents, right? And that's another way to get through them. For example, and I mean this quite literally, you know, if you are trying to influence a policymaker or a senior authority in a healthcare organization or in a finance organization, and you know that he or she is spending a lot of time helping an elderly parent or elderly parents cope, they would be very open to something that was going to make that piece of their lives easier. So I think getting as personal as you can, trying to figure out where the pressure points are, thinking of stakeholders in a broad rather than a narrow way, opens up some possibilities for coalitions and allies that aren't obvious if you just think of this as a patient care issue.
Well, that's very helpful. Are there any generalized abilities from, I mean, you've talked about some of this right now in terms of feedback to people, what's important to them. I think that's what I'm hearing you're saying. But are there any, what else could we take and apply? You know, what other general principles could individuals that are trying to affect change apply in difficult change environments? So you've talked about getting your message right, but what else should we be doing?
Well, for example, I was thinking about the woman from Greece who's the CEO of a hospital. What if she made it part of the performance review of all her employees that they had to show evidence of collaboration across professional boundaries, right? My guess is that's not part of the performance review in most organizations for most employees. That would be a good step forward, right? Now, it has nothing directly to do with this issue, but it's something that a CEO of an organization probably has some authority to implement, and it would be a step in the right direction. It's not a straight line from where we are now to where you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a crooked path.
So is it something that we can legislate for? So earlier on I was in a meeting and people were talking about Europe really recognising that actually we need to work in a much more collaborative way. Is it something that you can legislate for?
I think it's very difficult to do. If you had a European Commission or a Prime Minister of France or Germany who was really excited about this, maybe yes. I think starting at the macro policy level is really, really hard unless you have some burning platform or some ready-made advocate. So, for example, if there were I'm just playing now, but you know, if the next Prime Minister of France was a nurse, that would be someone I'd want to spend a lot of time with around this issue.
Okay.
You know, I think that's a hard way to go. To me, this is an issue in which is going to require some patience on your part to let 1,000 flowers bloom, look for targets of opportunity, see moments where a region or a city or a country is in some kind of financial crisis, that you can be the financial savior. If you see an article in a paper about a person dying because of multiple medications or something like that, I would make that, circulate that as widely as possible. I think the testimony of the personal testimony of some of the people in your success stories would be really useful, because they can communicate to their peers in other places. To me, it's, as many different things you can do, but to start at the macro level seems to be the hardest road to go.
I'd really like to thank you, Marty, for your insights, because
Well,
I think
I hope it's
been
useful,
really
Alpine. I think you're doing important work, so it's
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.